Okay. So first of all, say hello. It's already late, but it's 4 o'clock, so just in time. As already said, so I guess most of you are already familiar with the company Würth in total. So Würth is normally well known for screws, nuts and bolts and fastening materials and machinery and everything. And I just want to tell you something more about the fact how we came into the possibility also to look for new manufacturing technologies, so additive manufacturing and 3D printing. But first of all, I will start, hopefully, if this one will work. Now it's worked. To tell you something more about the company itself. So Würth was founded after World War II. And, it was really also a startup. So, even for all the startups over here, might be a good session also to see how this company has developed over the last 70 years. So starting with only 2 persons, actually talking about a company of more than 13 billion euros in sales with more than 70,000 employees and 400 different companies. And, actually, I am in the electronics business. So there's also in the 1990s, there was also an electronic group founded. And in the recent years, we also took more attention to additive manufacturing and 3D printing. And how everything started was when we had our goal, our majority in mind is always the customer satisfaction. And just 2.5 years ago, we opened a so-called competence center in Berlin. And then we started with an approach, and we thought, Einstein was right when he said, creativity is intelligence having fun. And so with this thinking in mind, we started to have a so-called competitor nightmare approach in Berlin. And this approach was how to attack our own company to make this business model obsolete. And additive manufacturing was one key question when we had this approach over there. And in this approach, we gathered more than 30 people from all different areas in the Würth Electronics, and we put them together in a room for 2 days and thought about how we can attack our company. And the outcome was really that we still said, customer satisfaction is still in our mind, so still the focus, but how we can react to give our customers best solutions, faster solutions. And 3D printing and additive manufacturing was really one of it. So with this competence center and this competitor nightmare approach, we said we have to have more creative ideas. We also allow our own employees to go into that competence center in Berlin to bring their creative ideas to paper, to pitch in our own company, and then later on also to present, and in a so-called design thinking approach to bring all these ideas into reality. And so that is with 3D printing and additive manufacturing. And when we started this approach, we thought about how we can bring this additive manufacturing into our company. And then we said, okay, there are more or less 4 different sectors when we think about the manufacturing services itself, the 3D printing, and the printing technologies and the material. So we thought about the different 3D printing technologies, especially those kinds of metal 3D printing is getting more and more important to us. With these 4 different sectors, we dived into more the specifics. So whether we have to look for the 3D printing technologies, as said, so metal 3D printing is very important for us, as well as the materials itself. So when you look into the technologies right now, you see that more and more also industry metals getting printable. So we're talking about copper, silver, we already have gold, palladium, and other ones. And so this is something where we say our core business in the electronics is about components. When we talk about passive components, you have copper, coils, and others. And so if these metals starting to get printable, new horizons will come also to our business. And so with this competitor nightmare approach, we said, if these technologies will develop over the next years, and they definitely will, also some of our business, of our core business, might be affected. And so we have to have a closer look into, because we don't want to end like companies like Nokia. And what happened to them was when they said all these smartphones will never happen in future. So nowadays no one is talking about Nokia. And so we want to prevent not to having the same result. So with all new technologies, of course, there are both sides of the story. There are challenges and, of course, lots of chances. So a challenges is, of course, with all the changing market demand, we also have to change. And that's why we also thought about our core model and how we can integrate this additive manufacturing. There will be definitely new competitors in the market. So competitors that we do not have nowadays. There are also new requirements. Lots of customers asking for more customization, different approaches. But on the other hand, we also have more innovative solutions, so we can be much faster. So the time to market can be much faster with these additive manufacturing services. And so that's why we decided also to implement this business model into our core business model. What I want to show over here is there are already two different things established in the market. One is printed electronics. On the other hand, we have embedded components. And our thing is, and this is our, what we definitely need in future, is to combine both together to 3D printed applications. That means in one step to come from, this flexible printed electronics and the regular embedded components into a solid PCB, to bring both in one technology from a 3D printing approach. And that's why when we talk about laser sintering, where we can print metals like copper and others. So when you think about a regular component, a passive component, what we have is silver, we have copper, so you can print it, and you already can print electronics, so why not print also a complete PCB, a complete application in a combined printing process? And these thinking in mind, we said we have to have a closer look into the technology, because this is something what you already see in some laboratories. I already have seen, in the last year, a company in the US that already printed a complete functional drone in one process. That means you have plastic extrusion and you have 3D metal printing in one printing process with different heads. And so this is definitely something that will be there in the market in future. When I talked already about metal 3D printing, so this is the DMLS, so the direct metal laser sintering, is something that we took into a closer look, because this gives us, printing processes with highest precision, highest quality, because this is definitely something for industry customers, while quality is really key, most important. We are talking about products that have to last for at least 10, 15 to 20 years. And also with smaller structures. So actually we have structures of less than 30 micron, and it's getting smaller and smaller. But there are definitely challenges also for the printing materials, like printing copper. Copper nowadays still have the problem that the particle size of copper in a printing paste is very different. And there are already approaches from universities that we are already in charge of to have these materials in a very regular particle size and for smallest printing diameters. Another one is, of course, and this is what we also have to take into account, is to evaluate the different processes. And this is definitely something what companies also like Würth will ask you all the time: what is the price of the technology and what is a the speed of the technology. Of course, when it comes to price, it is absolutely necessary, especially in such big companies, always to take this total cost into approach, not only the single cost of the component, not the single cost of the process, really to see that the cost for any tooling, for any component might be more than 50 or 100 grand, so more than 50 or 100,000 euros. And when you compare all these additional costs that you have with regular manufacturing processes in comparison to the additive manufacturing, then you will see that the cost approach is not the one that you have to be afraid of, because then you already can see that with the cost and with the speed, additive manufacturing is definitely something for the future also in the electronics business. Not to, completely erase the manufacturing of electronic components, of passive components, but definitely for special components. Another thing is, and this is definitely also something that we have to see in our company, in our whole group, we have more than 400 different companies, that cooperation is key. And that's why we also have this competence center in Berlin to talk to different universities, different laboratories, even like Fraunhofer Institute, also to go to different fairs, even like Rapid.Tech or ID.Tech X in the US, but definitely also those kind of startups, grown-ups, or this network like Mobility Goes Additive, where already lots of major industry companies working together on additive manufacturing solutions. And this is also driven from companies that need this additive manufacturing for service, after sales, and this is also something that is very important for us. Finally, and this is most important, talk to each other, and that's why I'm here also maybe to answer some of your questions. Otherwise, I will say thank you and sorry for a little delay in the beginning. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that interesting speech, Mr. Lohrber. Do you have any questions regarding this topic? Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Manfred from Botspot. Now you're working for a really big company, and we also cooperating with some big companies, and we always feel that the old people in the company say, 3D printing is humbug. We don't need that. So do you see any resistance in your company, or is it open-minded and everybody says, yeah?
Most important is with 70,000 people in Würth Elektronik, so you will find both. So I really talk to people, even young people, that say, hey, we're doing most of our business we're doing with standards. Why not stay with standards so everything will work well? The most important for us, it's, even our 83, 84 years old head of the company, he is very much interested in 3D printing. So Professor Würth is interested in 3D printing. He likes 3D printing. So this is the best thing that we can have. And also in our companies, so there are already lots of people working in 3D printing, are very interested in for different approaches. So you can imagine, so when you have a company that comes from screws, nuts and bolts down to electronics, that's why I also said we have major activities in all kinds of 3D printing approaches. So whether it comes from plastic, whether it comes to metal and others. Yes, you will find both, but the majority, and especially the head of the company, likes 3D printing, and that's why we definitely go ahead with 3D printing also in Würth.
Thank you. Any more questions? One more. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more question from my side. So I guess you're the head of 3D printing in your company, or at least in a leading role. So how do you do that? So you're sitting at your desk the whole time, or you're traveling around a lot and going and see the people, or how you do that? So is it German-based business you're preparing, or is it international?
No, it's absolutely global. Absolutely global. So as you can see over here, and that's why I had on the last page what I mentioned. So really the shows around the world is definitely key to be globally present because there are so many universities in the world, so many different countries, especially when you go to Asia. And this is definitely also an approach that I really like personally. When you see the way of introducing 3D printing in Europe, especially in Germany, where it's completely the technology approach, really high scale, but that's why lots of R&D people still have the problem to maybe change to additive manufacturing approach because they do not understand what's the reliability of additive manufacturing. So what's the reliability of these parts? And that's why they still have some awareness that maybe we stay with our traditional focus. When you go to Asia, they do totally different. Now, when you go to shows in Asia, you will see that they really show the crowd on the street how 3D printing works. How 3D printing is also for a technology for everyone. And this is definitely another step that we also have to learn, how to convince people to believe in this new technology, because it's definitely something new, and we have to convince the people, because we can have the best technologies, we can have the best printers, but when we do not convince the customers also like us, like Würth, that this technology is definitely something for the future, then no one will buy these technologies, no one will spend money into R&D. And that's why, it's definitely a part of my job to travel around the world, to see these different approaches, whether in Asia, whether in the US, also in Germany, to see, to combine both, to combine the technology that comes from universities, but also to see how other people bring this technology to, to work.